Hello everyone, welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is the Study of Witchcraft, a guidebook to Advanced Wicca by Deborah Lipp, foreword by Isaac Bonowitz, her ex-husband. Which I found kind of weird to have your ex write the foreword to your book, but whatever. We know from a future book that she has come out as a lesbian, so maybe they're on good terms, but it still just feels a little weird out of all of the witchy authors out there to have your ex do it, but to each their own. So this book is one of those that it's like, it's an okay resource, but really, if you can find it at your local library, that's probably your best bet. Because this book doesn't actually talk that much. So it's definitely not advanced anything. This is kind of like the chapters almost are like a video script, where if somebody had asked, like, you're teaching your witchcraft stuff online and you're like, ah yes, the next installment, the burning times. And you go through like a smidge bit of information, but like not that much. That's one chapter. It's like, it's not even 10 pages. And most of the pages is this. It's recommended readings for every single chapter. Once in a while there's a little bit of homework. Honestly, the homework is kind of like, meh. But the big thing is that this book, the only saving grace is how many books are recommended, and that's kind of it. Like, this is one of those books that, like, no topic is discussed in depth, really, and it's mostly just talking about, like, very broad topics, and then, oh, go read these books that are going to talk about it more, constantly. And it's like, what was the point in this book? Because, like, yes, having recommended reading lists are great, but maybe because this is a little bit of an older book, that has something to do with it. Because, like, nowadays, this would be, like, a book format for this information might not be the best. I feel like this information would have been better, again, in, like, a blog post, or a video, or a TikTok series, or something like that, where you have a little bit of an intro, and then you're just telling recommended reading, go read somebody else's work to understand the topic that I'm briefly discussing with you. That feels weird to have in a book context. Like, why should I buy your book just to get the recommended readings list? And like, every topic was just so briefly covered that it was like, why am I buying this book when I could get a different one? And again, the recommended readings list is pretty good. However, is it an overly saturated, like, style that you're gonna find everywhere online anymore? Yeah, because how many of y'all, I think myself included at different points, have found Witchcraft 101 books, where to look for this, recommended resources for witches, for beginning Wiccans, whatever. There is always recommended lists for people to go buy books. I don't know why this one would be any different than just finding it online. And like, yes, each one has a little blob to go with it, but that's about it. And it just kind of describes it. The only thing that I did actually really enjoy about this book was, because, okay, Timeline of Existence, I read this after Triumph of the Moon, and in here, she kind of puts the, like, witch, title, Wiccan, whatever, into like 3 categories. And honestly, looking at it, it does kind of seem to fit pretty well. So you have your traditional Wiccans. These are going to be Gardnerian, probably Alexandrian, like they're following the specific set kind of guidelines. It's going to be very based on like the old occult coming into the new. Again, a lot of Gerald Gardner work is going to be like the base. You're gonna have a coven, you're gonna have a Book of Shadows that's like a community Book of Shadows that you eventually like copy, probably by hand most of the time. I don't know how many covens are like super chill with like sharing like a Google Drive sort of deal, but like they're very coven based. Again, Gardnerian traditional Wicca. Then the next one is one that kind of sprang from it, but is also kind of its own entity, and that is, I think she called it like Radical Wicca, and like that is your activist groups. Specifically, this tends to be like the feminist movement, and it's like, yeah, because sometimes you can catch those in books that you read. You're like, whoa, okay, we moved over there. Think Starhawk. That type of writing. And then on the opposite side, you've got eclectic. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could probably still qualify me as eclectic Wiccan, depending on how strong eclectic is carrying that title. And a lot of us probably fall into that category. Because you can be a monotheist, a duotheist, a polytheist. Like, there's so many ists that you can be in eclectic, because some people, like myself, believe all the gods are all the gods, they're not one. And other people, it's the diamond, or like a double diamond, where you've got all the goddesses and all the gods, and then you have like the source. Like, there's different ways to look at it, but like eclectic, we just kind of do our own thing. And the way she talks about that, like, that's gonna be like the Scott Cunningham crowd, where it's like, you do your own thing, you figure out your own path, you're probably solitary, and you're just, and the one thing was that I swear they always have this, there's always just this little jab, and like, I get it, but also it still gets annoying. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting old, but like, you can only handle so many times of being told that you're not as like qualified because you're solitary, and like because you're eclectic and you don't have the tradition, that you're just learning one tradition, that suddenly like your knowledge doesn't mean as much. And of course the example always has to be the baby witch training another baby witch. And like, different titles are always used, but it tends to have that vibe of like, oh well, you're just a little baby witch and you're just training another little baby witch, it's okay. Over here from I have studied under many official covens, which if you read Triumph of the Moon, you know that they're all just kind of like, okay. Like, it's fine to say that you're from a coven. You don't need to have like this higher than thou attitude about it because you're part of an established coven. That doesn't always mean the most out of anything. So, moral of the story, is this a book I think you probably need to get? No. And a lot of the recommended readings, like some of them are out of print, and like some of them are just really off the wall, and like some are even really witchy related, but some are. So like, it's a long list to work through, but like if you're gonna buy a book based off of just getting the recommended readings, there's plenty from Deborah Lipp, and honestly she's a bigger like title in the witchcraft community, and she also teaches you stuff in her books, that I would say her books would probably be the better option, because her recommended reading list is massive. And also, she teaches you stuff in her books. This is just an introduction with a bunch of recommended readings. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I have their names over here. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.